holders for our building and broaden our, but I think we should allow Mary Frances to finish this particular point as to how we really are trying to balance the interests of all of our shareholders.
While I agree that the apartments are being sold, your position is that I'm sorry, that your position is that they're undervalued. I don't know about that. It seems to me that their values are pretty much the same across Tudor City. And all of the other buildings are facing the same issues and are dealing with it in pretty much the same way. The selling of the apartments is one problem. The refinancing of mortgages, that's a more serious problem, and that, as Paige has talked to us and everybody else who tries to refinance their mortgage, it's really very difficult. And people in the building have not been able to take advantage of the lower interest rates and refinance their mortgage because the banks just won't talk to them. In any case, whether you believe it's a problem or not, a lot of people believe it's a problem. And so we have decided we have to deal with it. The board has decided that we have to deal with it. We have to get that number below 50% in order to protect everyone's investment. So up until now, you have not been able to sublet unless you owned your apartment for 2 years. That has been lengthened to 3 years. So you must own your apartment for 3 years before you can sublet. The board will not, as a matter of course, I mean, up until now, there have actually been investors who have been willing to buy the apartment, to hold it empty for 2 years, so that then they could invest. At this point, the board will not entertain investor buyers. So that is a difference. Even if you're willing to pay the maintenance for the next 3 years, we're just not going to entertain that.
How are you going to control if the apartment is inhabited or not? Because you said that they were empty.
No, it's not a question of whether it's inhabited or not. In terms of approving the purchaser, it's pretty obvious when someone comes to buy the apartment and they're living in Westchester in a mansion, and they say they're going to move to this studio apartment in Tudor City, that they're really not planning to move into a studio apartment in Tudor City, that they are in fact buying it for investment purposes. And we see all kinds of interesting things. There was a package recently of someone who lives in Boston or something, and she was buying this apartment. She was going to move from a house in Boston to Tudor City, even though she doesn't have a job in the city. And it was like, I don't think this is quite where you're going. The board has to make that decision and evaluate
And
packages.
just for your information, we do watch, in order for people to invest, even for the 2 or 3 years it's more difficult, but in order for people to not be resident, but to invest, unless they are willing to possibly lose their proprietary interest by breaking house rules, they must apply. When you want to have a renter in your apartment, you must apply every year to have your lease redone. If you don't do that, well, first of all, again, if we're saying we're not going to give you a lease for the next 3 years, period, and we don't want to do this, people have to know that they're going to come in and do a lot. We are also asking them to make an affidavit that they do not intend to be investors. Now, you say people lie, and that's true, and people commit murder and get away with it. But we can only do what we can do. And these are, first of all, letting that period be a little longer so that it's less economically feasible to just come in and say, well, what the heck, I'll pay the maintenance for a couple of years and then get something better out of it. One, that's a little harder now. And two, we are really asking you to be quite a liar if you want to come in here and invest and just put it over on us. And you may be able to get away with it, but most people are not looking for quite that much.
Bert and his staff are pretty vigilant about who's moving in and who's not moving in.
That's the same subject. So the board would accept or not a buyer because they suspect that they're not going to live here? I mean, is that a situation?
That they're going to use it for investment purposes.
It's perfectly legitimate to buy an apartment here as a pied-à-terre.
Right, that is, you don't live here all the time,
But
but
you-
you have a
you-
home.
No, I understand that. I'm thinking about how fair it is that somebody would be rejected without telling the person you're not going to live here. I mean, that's the first
No, we
thing that-
don't.
No,
We tell them.
and the
Ah,
policy.
you tell them the reason?
And the policy is out there. The brokers all have the policy. They know the policy. The brokers know that they should not be bringing investors to this building, period, the end. Okay, so
Onward.
now, onward. There is a stick involved here, and that is that the sublet fee, as of November 1st, is being increased from about 13% to 18% of maintenance. Now, the interesting thing is that in the Tudor City community, that number is low. 25 Tudor is at, I think, 30%. Woodstock is at 25%, because every building is facing the same issue, and so they're using the stick to try and solve that problem. This board decided it